The 47th floor of Harrington Global Tower had no memory of ordinary people. That was not a metaphor. The architects who designed it had literally removed every element that might remind its occupants of ordinary life. The scuffed edges, the fluorescent hum, the kind of chair you could fall asleep in without shame. What remained was 3,000 square feet of Italian marble, German glass, and a silence so cultivated it felt like a policy. The heating vents were invisible. The catering staff moved in prescribed patterns, trained not to make eye contact unless invited. Even the snowstorm outside the one that had been swallowing Manhattan since 4 in the afternoon looked decorative from up here. A slow white performance staged against the black grid of Midtown. The annual internal gala had been Evelyn Harrington's idea, though she would not have called it a gala herself. She called it a strategic alignment dinner. The distinction mattered to her, in the way most distinctions matter to her. Precisely and completely. She was 34 years old, the youngest CEO in Harrington Global's 80-year history, and she had earned every title by refusing to let language do anything other than exactly what she needed it to do. She stood near the glass wall with a glass of Sancerre, watching the room the way she read balance sheets, scanning for anomalies, flagging inefficiencies, measuring the distance between what people said and what they meant. Around her moved 60 of the company's most senior figures. Division heads, senior counsel, the 3 board members who had flown in from London. Victor Kane, the COO, worked the room with the ease of a man who had practiced charming people since before he understood what charm was. He was 40, silver-haired, and the kind of handsome that reminded people they were being watched. No one looked at the man cleaning the south corner of the room. Noah Bennett was 41 years old and had been with Harrington Global's facilities team for 7 months. He was lean in the way of men who forget to eat, rather than men who are careful about it, with dark eyes that had the specific quality of noticing things without announcing the fact. His uniform was the standard dark gray of the contracted cleaning service. He moved quietly, efficiently. The way people move when they have learned that visibility is a liability. At 8:47 p.m., a junior legal associate named Preston Whitfield, 26, third drink of the evening, trying to impress a director from the Paris office, held up a printed contract page and made an observation in clumsy, tourist-grade French. The French director, a woman named Isabelle Renard, smiled the way people smile when they are being patient. "What does this clause even say?" Preston said, reverting to English. "Someone translate this." He said it to the general air around him. He was not addressing Noah. No one was ever addressing Noah. Noah paused his work. He set his mop against the wall with a small, deliberate motion. "It says," he said, in Spanish, "that the indemnification clause in subsection 4 has a structural error that would void the arbitration agreement under French commercial law." He said it quietly. He said it the way you mention that it is raining as information, without performance. Preston blinked. Isabel looked up. Evelyn Harrington, 20 feet away, heard it. She turned her head a degree or two. A small sound escaped her. Not quite a laugh, not quite a scoff. Something between the two, light as a hand wave, dismissive the way only people in certain rooms know how to be dismissive. "Interesting," she said, in a tone that meant the opposite. The small cluster of people near Preston smiled, in the way that small clusters of people smile when the person with power has set the temperature of a moment. It was not cruel. It was the cruelty of thoughtlessness, which is often worse. Noah heard it. He always heard things. He had spent years training himself not to react to them. He looked down at the floor. He looked at the marble, which was very clean, and at the baseboards, which needed attention, and at the document in Preston's hand, which he could read from where he stood, because his eyesight was good, and the font was large, and the error in subsection 4 was, in fact, exactly as serious as he had said. Then he looked up. His eyes moved to Evelyn first. He held her gaze for a moment, not in challenge, not in anger, just in the way of a man who has decided something. When he spoke again, he spoke in French. "Permettez-moi d'être plus précis." Allow me to be more precise. His French was not the French of someone who had studied it. It was the French of someone who had lived inside it, the cadence of a man who had attended meetings in Lyon and Brussels, and argued contract language in rooms like this one, in a different life, when he was someone else. Isabelle Renard straightened. Her expression changed in the specific way of a person who has stopped being polite and started paying attention. The indemnification structure in subsection 4. Noah continued, moving toward Preston and gesturing toward the document with the unhurried confidence of someone who has explained this kind of thing many times, references a standard arbitration clause from the 2019 ICC revision. But the revision your legal team used as a template was the pre-amendment version. Under current French commercial law specifically, the Hague Convention update ratified in 2021, this clause cannot be enforced as written. If the counterparty challenges it, the arbitration agreement collapses. The entire liability protection goes with it. Silence. Not the trained silence of catering staff moving carefully around important people. A different kind. The silence of a room that has stopped processing and is attempting to restart. Preston held the document slightly lower than before. Isabelle said something in French, quiet and precise, directed at Noah. He answered her, and she answered him, and they exchanged 4 sentences in the smooth, efficient register of 2 people who understand each other completely, while 60 people who had not been expecting this stood at the margins of the conversation and waited. Noah turned back to the room. Your legal team needs to fix this before Friday, he said, in English, without emphasis, as though he were noting that a window had been left open. Or the Lion acquisition is void. He picked up his mop. He walked back to the south wall and resumed cleaning the baseboard. The room did not move for a moment that felt much longer than it was. Victor Kane, across the room, watched Noah's back with an expression that was not readable at a distance. Evelyn Harrington set her wineglass on the nearest surface. She did not remember doing this until later, and looked at the man in the gray uniform, pushing a mop along the baseboard of her company's most expensive room. She had been certain, for 45 seconds, that she was watching something absurd. She was no longer certain of anything about him. Preston looked at the document in his hand. He looked at Isabelle. Isabelle gave him a small nod that contained its own complete lecture. He's right, she said. I noticed it this morning,